But hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, November 12th, 2020. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. I like that one.
That was pretty good.
It's grown on me. I quite like it.
Yeah. The submissions have kind of petered off. The user submissions, that one was created by LessReverb. And so because we've actually gone through every user listener created new intro piece of music, I'm going back to the archive, the folder of submissions, and I listen to a couple of them every time to pick which one. I go back to this one, which may be a sign that this is the favored one. At least it's a strong contender. But thank you, LessReverb, for creating that intro piece of music. And thank you out there for joining us for this podcast. I'm Norm, of course. With me today, we have Jeremy Williams.
Cheerio.
Jeremy, you're wearing a Magic Leap developer t-shirt. Is that correct?
Wow.
The fact that I'm wearing a Magic Leap developer t-shirt is correct. I was never a Magic Leap developer. We went to an event, you and I and Gunther, and on the way out, they asked if we wanted shirts, and I was the only one of us who said yes, please.
Oh man, I love a good developer shirt though. Like a good like I have a GitHub LTS shirt that people love, has a really good logo. Couldn't tell you.
I was going to make some type of joke about that being similar to their success in the marketplace, but I mean they're still around. They're still doing B2B stuff, and I hope, I wish them all the best. But Magic Leap developer shirt wearer, not actual developer or user, Jeremy Williams. There you go. You heard him already. Also, we have sitting in for Kishore, Will Smith. Will,
hello. Hello.
Are you broadcasting from a landscaping company?
I've been in Philadelphia for the last couple of weeks, doing a little groundwork, and I wanted to stay at the Four Seasons, but this was all I could afford, it turns out. So it was a real weird day on Saturday, I'm going to say. So
you should check out the shops nearby.
There's all sorts of, look, that crematorium, man, they have the best urns I've ever seen. And we won't talk about what happens right next door, but it's open all night. Business is popping over there.
Yeah. Say hi to the 75-year-old attendant who's kind of pissed that all the parking spots are taken.
Yeah. Well, I mean, where's he going to park? Norm?
This is too inside baseball. Thank you guys for joining us. You guys both, I wanted to first of all say congratulations on successful Extra Life weekends that you both participated in.
Rock on.
Jeremy, you ran
I managed
Eclipse.
the stream for Digital Eclipse, Other Ocean, for 3 days straight. We ran for 12 hours a day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Raised $1,300 for SF Benioff Children's Hospital here in San Francisco. Very proud.
Awesome, dude.
That's great for the kids. And then Will, you of course did your annual stream. Tell us about your stream experience. And so, I heard it went very, very well.
We this is the third year we've done this. 24 Hours of Spite. It's me and my friends that I play PUBG with on the reg over on twitch.tv/notthatwillsmith. And we raised almost $29,000.
Wow.
It was like, I looked at the totals from the previous years, and last year was a little bit weird because there was a big DDoS in the morning, which like knocked out a good 6 hours of donation window. So we were a little bit down, but we basically did almost double what we had done on either of the previous years this year. I had a really good time. Like, it's just such a fun time. Some, former, or I guess current Tested fans, folks that know me from the Tested audience, and Tested community members had taken just running jokes from the last multiple years of streaming, and they built, hold on, it's right here. Let me grab it and I'll pick it up so we can show you. They printed a PUBG crate. Faraday printed a PUBG crate. He 3D printed this. He printed them for all four of us, sent them, and they made custom energy drinks that are just loaded with like goofy Twitch in jokes. It's so good. I was so excited, and I had such a good time. And I mean, of course, at the end of the day, the best part is that we raised a bunch of money to help, again, kids at Benioff. So Thanks to everybody who participated. And next year, the thing I realized as I was talking to Gina before I came on today, I was like, really next year, the time to do the tested spot is before the extra live stream rather than after. So I'm going to hit you up in about 51 weeks if that's okay, Noam.
No problem. And more people watching those streams. Tons of folks that we know did live streams, raised a bunch of money, and also in good fun. I mean, the technology there, streaming's so easy. The communities are great. How well did you guys do in the PUBG games though?
We have continued our tradition, despite our average wins per night is somewhere between one and two. We, despite playing a bunch of PUBG, did not win. We didn't play. We only played probably 5 hours of PUBG this year. We played a lot of. We played Ultimate Chicken Horse. We played a lot of Wavelength. I played a 2-hour block with my daughter where we played Spelunky 2 and Human Fall Flat around dinner time. We played the mobile version of Wavelength, the board game about reading minds. It's just absolutely fabulous if you can get access to that. And then we did. I won my first Fall Guys crown at like 4:00 in the morning. That was amazing.
Congrats! That's huge.
I know. Now I've won every battle royale that's out again. I'm back on top, baby.
So you've won a Fortnite?
I've won a Fortnite. I've won an Apex. I've won a COD. I've won a PUBG. I've won a Fall Guy.
I think that's all of them. A Population 1?
I have not. I have not. So the other thing that happened last week is I had a medical thing and I ended up getting diagnosed with Bell's palsy. There's a whole story about it on the stream. Like last Wednesday, I did a stream and explained what happened because people were freaked out. But I have Bell's palsy right now. It's getting better, but I can't move the left side of my face. The not being able to move the left side of your face and or blink, it turns out, precludes any VR usage. So I have not had a chance. We had talked about it, I think, maybe the day before this happened. I can't remember, Jeremy. And I was like, yes, I'm going to try it tonight. And then I did not try it that night because I went to the hospital instead. So it was everything's fine. I'm totally healthy. I'll be better in a month or two. But it was definitely an exciting week last week. I'd rather not repeat.
Gnarly.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Glad to hear it.
Drew Scanlon was actually the highlight of our stream, in my humble opinion.
Oh, Drew brings the pain, man.
He came on
Drew is so good.
For 2 hours and did a rapid fire playthrough of about 10 to 15 arcade games from the 80s that he, as a child of the 90s, had never played. And, things like Mappy and the Pac, like some of the Pac-Mans, like the offshoot Pac-Mans, like Pac-Man Jr., a lot of games that you probably played, like Rally X and stuff, but he'd never tried. So he played them and basically learned as he went and gave his opinion on them. It was a lot of fun.
Were these on the actual arcade cabinets or are these emulated?
He has an arcade cabinet that is a CRT monitor rotated on its side. So every game that he played was a vertical game.
Nice.
And, but very authentic. He had a camera pointed at the monitor, one on him, good audio. Of course, he's a producer. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drew's the best.
That's awesome.
Doesn't blink as much as he used to, it turns out.
Do you know if anyone did any VR things for Extra Life? Were there VR live streams? You mentioned Population 1. One of the things I was thinking about is like, would it be compelling to do an in-headset live stream like that, extended duration? We're not talking about Euro Truck Simulator, but like a competitive game like a Pavlov or a Population 1, tethered, of course, for power purposes if you're going to be using the Quest. But would that be compelling? And how would you mix that to make it engaging with an audience if the gamer is going to be in headset the whole time?
So I've definitely seen folks do, like the Beat Saber streamers and the Pistol Whip streamers do blocks of those games. I think the physical toll of a 24-hour Beat Saber, Pistol Whip, or even like Pavlov or something that's a little less impactful that you can sit and play some if you want is maybe a lot. I think it would be a little hard. I don't know.
This is something worth discussing because it's something we haven't really revisited in our VR talk in a while. But like the physical endurance, I feel like in a lot of games these days is less. And there's that debate of whether you want full room scale, full immersion, full motion controls, or when I'm playing a game like Population 1, I'm using stick controls. And yeah, even when I played Half-Life Alyx, I was using mostly the sticks to move around. And yes, I'm moving my hands, but like I don't need to feel like I'm full body physically engaged for a long duration. I could play much longer. I could play an hour goes by real fast in Population 1 because it just feels like a big IMAX game wrapped around me with motion controls for the aiming.
Before my face thing happened, I was playing a fair amount of Squadrons because they fixed the frame rate bug finally, and it's surprising how comfortable it is to sit here just with the index on, the cable draped over the back of my chair, and the HOTAS on the desk in front of me, and like you said, an hour just melts away. So I think I could have done, had I not had the face thing, I intended to do some Squadrons on Saturday, and we subbed it out for the wavelength, which was an absolute blast. So it worked out. But I'll revisit that at some point in the future.
For me, the element that's missing from VR streams is the eye contact with the viewer, the face-to-face contact, because you're obviously obscured with the helmet on, with the face mask over your face. So, like, you do sacrifice that. Obviously, you can still put a camera on the person and you can see their body move and you can relate that to what's going on the screen, and that's new and different, and you don't get to see that in regular games. But I really do feel like that eye contact matters, and I would love to see how that evolves. Eventually we'll get some sort of reproduction of people's face, ideally cameras inside, so we can get the eye tracking. Maybe we can get that infrared camera signal, at least get black and white, and do some sort of augmented facial mapping on some sort of avatar who's sitting there, so you can at least imagine that you're making eye contact with somebody to see the person's face. I mean, that's going to be good in VR too, but it will be good for streams. And that's the kind of thing that I still feel like we're in the early days as far as the VR goes.
Oh God, modified faceplates, right? Like the index, you could put small little LCD screen there.
Yeah.
But if you had some type of eye tracking, and you can have the emoji, lo-fi pixel version of your expression, of your eyebrows, and what just general direction your pupils are looking, that go a long way, at least for the video footage of you playing.
Well, and then the other part of it for streaming especially is you want to have access to the chat and stuff like that. And while there are tools like that, like Live Streamer Kit is pretty good, it's still a little more fiddly than you want it to be.
What does that
especially
do?
It lets you view the Twitch chat when you're in VR. So you can, like, if you're playing Beat Saber, you can just map it up in the world, like put it up in the world someplace up here.
Gotcha.
Or like put it on the back of your left hand or something like that if you're playing Pistol Whip. And it lets you interact with the audience, and also, like, a big part of the problem is, like, I'm sitting in front of my computers here and I'm playing a game. I have the monitors over here, so I see what the stream is getting. I know that the audio is good and all that. You lose that stuff the moment you put the headset on, so you really rely on the chat to tell you if, like, you knocked your microphone loose or if you stepped too far away or whatever. And without that kind of constant feedback, it gets a little hinky.
Mm-hmm. Totally, and where your attention is when you're in headset, your whole field of view is whatever the content is, and even when you're adding that layer in the compositor on the desktop side with the Live Streamer Kit, like the focus isn't exactly the same. That where the plane of that window is, and also the game, the capture of the game itself, right? Alex did a smoothing out for streaming purposes. So you don't get so much roll. But I know some people who can't watch VR streams or VR video because it's not comfortable, because there's so much micro movements that aren't smoothed out, and it really isn't an accurate representation of what it feels like to be in headset.
Well, that's where the mixed reality stuff comes in.
Yeah.
Like the Beat Saber streamers and the Pistol Whip streamers figured this stuff out ages ago.
Rec Room too. They do a third-person camera.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Rec Room camera is really smart. It follows you around. It's kind of like a little drone buddy that chases you. But the other thing, the big challenge right now facing especially the Beat Saber folks is that the DMCA situation on Twitch right now means that basically, like, every time they stream Beat Saber game, they just have to wipe all the VODs and delete all the clips that people make of their channel, which means they lose all, like, post stream engagement, which isn't a huge deal, but on some level, it's like they're not losing a ton of money because of that, but they are losing a lot of potential for marketing and getting new people into their channel and stuff like that through, like, hot clips and things like that. It's a real bummer.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we get to our top story, long story short, Will, play Population 1. I think
I will, as soon as I'm able.
I'm really curious what your thoughts on it are compared to a massive battle royale game with 100 people. This is only 18 people, but we've been having a ton of fun with it. And like I said, when you and I and your kid jump and play, like an hour goes by very quickly, and we're doing quite well. So,
well, I mean, so the thing about not to belabor, but like we do customs. I do PUBG customs where I set up the game and just get people from the community, and we play with 30, 40 people all the time. Battle Royale doesn't have to mean 100 people or 200 people or whatever. It just means that the circle gets smaller and the people get pushed into each other, and you can have a really, really fun, intense, like 15-minute small scale Battle Royale experience. So I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, and I want to play with you. So let me know when you want to dive in.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. It'll be a little bit. I got to get the face going again.
Teams of 3 only. So really population 3 more than population 1. They
Yeah,
don't
hopefully-
make the 3 survivors, like the winning team. They don't do Hunger Games style where the 3 have to immediately try to fight each other when they become the surviving. That'd be a great mod.
That'd be funny.
I still don't know why people don't do that. Like, that should be the thing.
Right?
Yeah,
Just like end the game. Yes, the team won, and then it's free for all. Then it's then it's real population 1.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Free game advice out there. Big Box VR. Go make it happen. All right, let's move on to our top story.
Top story this week.
Well, it actually happened. The long prophesied day has come. Apple has announced 3 new computers based on its ARM processor that we now know is called the M1. Now, Will, perfect time for you to jump on this podcast. I think one of the last times you were on is actually after they announced this transition away from Intel to ARM as their long-term plan, which, listeners of this podcast know that's something you had predicted long time ago. It's arrived.
The prophecy has been fulfilled.
That's right. And we have now more concrete details about the performance and what to expect with at least this launch generation of ARM-based MacBooks and Mac Mini. So let's talk about the specifics of the hardware first. There are 3 devices. There's a Mac Mini, there's a MacBook Air, and then the MacBook Pro 13-inch that will be sold alongside the MacBook Pro 13-inch Intel version. I don't know how they're going to actually differentiate that in store, but there are no physical stores right now open, so maybe that's an easier problem for them. It's all online. And then there's the MacBook Pro 15-inch, the Mac Pro. Those are still Intel-based for now. All 3 of the computers run a version of their M1 chip. And so this is kind of based on their A14. It's basically the architecture they developed for the A14 5-nanometer process, except now with 8 cores, up to 16 gigs of RAM, and slight differences in terms of how they use this chip, which version of the chip goes into the various computers. For example, the MacBook Air, which starts at $1,000, will have a binned version of the M1 where only 7 of the 8 cores of the base spec will be activated. You have to pay more to get all 8 cores. And then the MacBook Pro version actually has active cooling, and so all 8 cores can run at full speed for much longer.
Wait. Is this a situation where like you have to pay? It's like a Tesla situation where you pay more and they unlock the 8th core once you have the machine. Okay.
No, it's like if you buy the $1,000 version, you're only going to get 7 cores activated because that's what they've binned for that SKU. And if you buy the more expensive, upgraded, more RAM version, more storage capacity, then you get the full unlock. But like this feels very Apple because you're not buying by spec, you're buying the MacBook with their new M chip, and you just expect all the benefits to come with it based on the amount of money you spent on that machine. So people in the market for $1,000 MacBook Air, right? They have no option. That's the one they're going to get. You're going to get your 18 hours of battery life, they say, and you're going to be able to run optimized versions of all first-party native apps, fast and smooth, with Rosetta 2 for compatibility with existing x86 apps or x64
Are they
apps.
actively cooled?
So only the MacBook Pro is actively cooled, even though the MacBook Pro and the Air will use the same chip, and that means, again, this is one of those things that should be completely opaque to the user. They're not supposed to know that they'll be able to, if you buy the Pro, you're probably going to be using the more intensive applications. And so the cores can ramp up and be at higher speed for longer.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, that is the only difference. Like they're upping the clock speed, and like Norm said, you get that additional core just out of the gate with the MacBook Pro. And the MacBook Pro is thinner than the Air too, by the way.
Oh, wow.
It's thinner because it's not the same thickness throughout. So the chassis, the air is tapered, and at its thickest, the air is like 0.03 inches thicker than the Pro. So it's just a
God.
different form factor. It's silly.
Just throw
it's
it in the
completely
trash.
silly.
Garbage.
Like
Absolute
the Air
garbo.
only exists because they can have something at $1,000 price point that they can artificially cap and bin with the lower, the less capable version of that chip.
And where does since the Mini doesn't have battery constraints, how is it souped up? Even is it like running a higher TDP, higher clocks, or do we know yet?
It's same performance as the Pro, active cooling, and it will be basically the MacBook Pro 13-inch equivalent. But it's interesting that this is only kind of their entry / base level Pro computers. The M1, whatever the future generations of this M chip, the optimizations to come, the way that they're going to ramp up the TDP and how much they want to leverage the benefits of ARM. It's clearly not ready for replacing the Mac Pro and the MacBook Pro 15-inch and what people expect out of those systems.
Do you guys feel like my general feeling on first gen Apple products, starting even with the original iPhone and going through the iPad and definitely through the watch, is that they're kind of to be avoided now. I've been burned enough times now that I'm not going to dive back into those. Do you think that's a fair thing to say about this? Or
are you speaking more about the compatibility with apps or about the hardware stability itself?
I'm saying that the first gen Apple, when Apple rolls out a new product or a new technology, those they don't have the longevity that they typically will by the second or third generation of that same product. So, for example, if you bought an iPad 2, you got a good 3 to 5 years out of it. If you bought an iPad 1, you got like 2.5 years out of it.
Right.
I was talking to somebody about my Apple Watches last night in context for this, and like the first gen Apple Watch was so bad that they retroactively rebranded it as the Series 0 to indicate the relative level of functionality it would provide. Yeah. Like I feel like this is not. Like if you want something to noodle with or you're a developer and you feel like you need to make these apps, absolutely you should be buying these. But these feel like products that I'm not going to spend money on.
I think it depends on what type of user you are. If you're let's say a casual with disposable income and you need to buy a $1,000 and you want to buy an Apple product, you want to buy the MacBook, and you're probably not going to be doing video editing, or if you are, you're using iMovie or Final Cut, you're probably not going to be doing coding on it, you're probably not going to be running games on it, you're going to get probably a lot of benefit out of that base $1,000 MacBook Air because just from the sheer battery life and sheer first party performance, right? The optimizations they've made on Safari.
Are you going to get is Creative Suite out for it yet? Not yet. Yeah.
Well, that's going to be Rosetta. I mean, they touted like Lightroom performance, and there are versions of those applications that Adobe have already made for like iPad, for example, and those apps will it's a really interesting division, right? Because right now on Creative, like Lightroom's a perfect example. On the desktop side, there's Lightroom Classic x86 app. It's like what people have loved using, what I've loved using for the past 10 years. There's Adobe Lightroom, which is like not the classic, but the newer version. Classic still gets upgrades. Lightroom is more cloud centric in terms of where your photos are stored. And then there's Lightroom Mobile, which is on your iPad, which is ARM based and ARM optimized. Like what's the version of Lightroom that's going to be pushed on the new MacBook Air? Probably not the iPad version because that's a touchscreen optimized one, and these aren't touchscreen computers. So it's like you see like forking of like where the resources, where a company like Adobe wants to spend development resources, and where they want to optimize.
It's a real choice to not put touchscreens on these, despite the fact that every Windows laptop you can buy now in that price range is going to have a touchscreen. Like
I've said for years that every child, around 10 years old or under, thinks that Macs are broken. Because they reach out and try to use them and they don't respond. And that's a fact. So and plus the fact that every single iOS app now runs on the M1 Max, I don't understand it. I don't understand why they wouldn't put touch as a one more thing feature in all new Macs, not even make a big deal out of it. Just say, and this if you want it.
Just make it a differentiator for the ARM ones versus the iOS ones, right? I mean, the Intel ones.
Oh my God, that would be. I mean, I think they're obviously afraid of the cannibalization, and maybe there's some maybe they're like really entrenched in their user experience beliefs that a clamshell device, you should not be touching that screen, even though Windows users are super comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But they believe that touchscreens are in the slate form factor, the iPad and the phone form factor. And if you're going to have a keyboard mounted to it, I mean, you have the keyboard mounted on the iPad Pro,
Yeah.
right? You can buy that $300
You can
keyboard.
put a mouse on the iPad Pro.
That's right.
Like the lines are already blurred.
I
Right.
just imagine it's a feature they're holding on to for an S year, for whatever they need to sell kit, and they don't have a major new upgrade, they'll throw touch in.
That's
If
where
that's
you're
what
going to
they're
get burned.
doing,
That's
if
it.
that's what they're, that's it. The S is for stupid then. So don't. The thing I'll say is we gave my daughter the choice of which laptop she wanted, because I had an old MacBook around and had a slightly older Mac Surface Pro when we were setting up her computer for this year, and she used them both for a little bit, and she's like, I want this one. And like having the Surface Pro and having the ability to use the stylus and having the ability to take it and write has been super good for school stuff. And she absolutely loves it. She uses a mouse when she's in tablet mode, in computer mode, and she writes on the screen when she needs to draw something for like a story or something like that. And it's really cool. It works super well. I think they're really, really messing up by not doing touch on these.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And back to your question, Will, real quickly, I feel like you can compare this product to what's come before or what will come after it. And I think it is, like, for some purposes, like Norm was saying, a surprisingly good upgrade compared to the current generation performance. They're talking like 20 hours of battery life. That's going to make flights a non-issue. You can watch whatever you want. You can compile code. You can do whatever you want and push a machine to the limit for an extended period of time. That's amazing battery life.
And typically that's a trade-off, right? Typically, if you say more efficient computer or longer battery life, it means you're crippling some type of compute performance. But they're saying that
they've done both. That's what they're saying, is they've done both. And no doubt they will get better. But
I mean,
that's life.
I mean, I know we're in the time of Rona right now, where we're all, no more than 15 feet from any power outlet at any given moment. Like, realistically, what that means is that for the first year of this computer's life, it's going to just, when I'm using it on the dining room table, I only have to charge it twice a week.
That's a really good point, that the battery life is not really a concern right now.
It's not really that urgent for me, right? It's not something I worry about. I mean, maybe if the power starts going out again. So, yeah.
I think it's that slow move. I mean, we can go back to talking about the iPhones, and we'll talk about the Mini and the Max reviews in tech, but like, we could very well see future Apple devices not having a physical power port because they all go MagSafe. And man, this is maybe the return of the charging mat, right? If you think about, if MagSafe is something that works in the phones and takes the place of the physical Lightning connector, and the reason why that they're not moving to USB-C on the iPhones, then maybe a future MacBook could have MagSafe style, induction underneath it, and you just kind of line it to a charging mat, and then you're never thinking about tether.
Having used that Epic Cam tethered with USB for some stuff off and on, I would be really sad if we lose a physical data port on the phones, because the USB version of that is so much better than the Wi-Fi version, even with good Wi-Fi.
The new MacBook Pros, the M1s, they only have 2 USB-C jacks. That's it.
Yeah, that's not enough.
It's not enough.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
It's even from a convenience standpoint, like, they're not even on different sides of the machine. Like, sometimes you want to plug in your power on one side.
Yeah. Can you use them both to charge? Well, yeah, that's just, ugh.
Dude, it's an expensive machine, and the Intel ones have 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're comparing it to something like the Surface Pro or $1,000 Chromebook, which is, I assume, the world's nicest Chromebook. I've never actually touched a $1,000 Chromebook before. But I mean, yeah, it's just, these, once again, it's form over function, which is the reason, when they started making those butterfly keyboards that stopped working when a single piece of dust got into the switches, I stopped buying Mac laptops.
Right.
So
2 more questions I want to address here. One from a standard layperson's, maybe someone who reads a Mac blog or reads a tech site from here or there, or CNN or whatever, right? If they're going to go shopping at an Apple store, online store, buying a new laptop this year, do you think there's a risk of just confusion and disappointment when they get the laptop and some things won't work, or there'll be some compatibility issues, or you think that Apple with Rosetta 2, it's going to be seamless and they'll just feel the benefits? Oh my God. Or do you think they're educated enough that people are going to know? Like, would the relatives who typically
People
go to
never
you,
know.
right?
Yeah,
People never know, Norm.
I'm with Will on this. I was surprised that even after all the speculation that this was the topic of the One More Thing event, because I don't think most people care what's inside a Mac. I think people want to know that there's new Macs available. They're faster than they used to be. They have higher resolution screens. That's it. I don't, and so to that
I
extent,
don't even think they care about higher resolution screens anymore, Jeremy. They're like, we're past that.
they probably expect them to be
Yeah.
high res screens, right?
And there's no
Yeah.
name difference, right? You're not buying a MacBook Air M series. You're just buying the MacBook Air. You could go and say, I want a MacBook Pro. And, the salesperson going to have to say 13 inch. Okay.
Exactly.
Which 13 inch? And they'll probably push the M1 on you. So is this a risk of there being confusion or disappointment or frustration among potential users because of compatibility? Obviously something they've taken into account, but do you guys foresee that being an issue?
I mean,
Yeah, it's 100%.
it's probably going to be an issue. I am optimistic because Apple's been through this before with the transition to Intel from PowerPC, and they did a good job. But it remains to be seen that they ship next week, and people will be testing apps, and we'll see what the compatibility is like.
Yeah, and that's the other big thing is that pre-orders are started already. They're shipping next week. They've had this in the pipeline. Obviously, when they first announced it, developers had access to the Mac Mini for building their apps and recompiling for ARM, and that was all out of WWDC. And then from a keynote standpoint, this being One More Thing, personally disappointed there wasn't actually a One More Thing on top of One More Thing. A lot of people speculated the AirTags or whatever they're going to call it, their RFID the things, tracker keys, key fobs, whatever there is going to be announced. That wasn't the case, but from a presentation standpoint, what did you guys think? Jeremy?
I didn't watch it. I didn't care enough to watch.
They brought back Hodgman.
That was great.
That's cool. I love Hodgman. Hodgman rules.
That got the biggest emotional response from me, I will say. I watched the whole event. It's very typical of their last several events, very high production video, single person in a big space using Apple Campus as a background. All very well done, but it was the Hodgman stinger at the end that sold it for me. I loved that.
I'm a big fan of Hodgman getting paid, so I'm stoked they brought him back.
He had to shave his epic beard for it. Last time I saw him in person, he had his big beard, and he went back to the PC suit. And you know what? PC has always been a plucky guy that I felt like I liked more than the
Mac.
Justin Long sucks.
Justin Long,
fuck that guy,
smarmy kid.
They brought the tone back too when you turn the Mac on. So there's a couple retro things going on in this broadcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was it. That's it for the Macs. I don't think any of us here are going to get them. It's one of those things that I wish Apple stores were open and we could go to malls and check them out, because it is something that I kind of want to see in person. And
let me ask you a question. Like everyone, like all the consoles are doing their retro consoles, the NES Mini, etc. Why not make a Mac that is in the stylings of a original Mac cabinet, but it has all the fixings of a modern Macintosh?
Why would you want that small of a screen?
Yeah.
And that
like
much empty space in where the CRT would go? What would you put there?
I'm not sure. I actually didn't own one, so I don't know. But I did. It strikes me as the kind of thing that would sell like crazy.
I look. Here's the thing. The good thing about Apple is their return policies are really good. So if you want to take this, throw the dice on this and see if it's good, you have like 2 weeks once it gets there to decide whether or not you want to shackle yourself to this thing for the next 3 to 5 years. I say pass on these.
Yeah. AnandTech did a really great write-up diving into the M1 chip about the 5-nanometer process, the kind of perf per watt potential. So obviously they're lower TDP than what you'd say. AMD is the biggest competitor right now with the Ryzen stuff. So the 5950 on the Ryzen side, still way more cores. You can throw 1632 cores on the desktop PC side, but the forecast for what the M1 can do once they start upping up the TDP, the clock speeds, the efficiencies of how the CPU and the GPU work together, the neural engine, stuff that is very Apple specific, that is all very promising for future Macs of this ilk. And we have a
kitty. JoJo's come to join
cat.
The podcast.
Hi, JoJo.
Very
I haven't
cute.
seen you
All
in a
right,
really
JoJo,
long
let's
time.
go listen to the pop culture moment. Two PSAs to start with pop culture. If you are an adult fan of Lego or even just a kid listening to this podcast who loves Lego and have the dollars to spend, there's a new Ecto 1 Ghostbusters Lego set. Ultimate Collector Series, 2,352 pieces. This was originally going to be launched to coincide with Ghostbusters Afterlife, so it has some fixins and custom pieces to make it look like the Ecto 1 that would appear in Afterlife. But that's the movie's pushed back to next summer. Commerce must still happen, and so Lego is going to sell this version starting next week, November 15th, in Lego online stores. I believe the price is $300. I want to say, is that the case?
Spoilers for the movie?
I don't think so. Probably not for the. I mean, if you've seen the trailer, you saw the Ecto 1,
yeah,
and there were some versions of it, some modifications, I should say, already in the trailer. Is that right? 2,300 pieces? Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a big kit. That's like Sandcrawler size.
Well, it's a bulky vehicle, right? Like Lego did the Batmobile, 1989 Batmobile, and that was almost 3,000 pieces. Very long car. Here, this Squatter, I think it's still supposed to be in the same scale, minifig scale, but this one, it's a little Squatter. I believe it's only 18 inches long. Yeah, so a foot and a half long. That's a pretty big vehicle. Wow. Yeah. The other thing is the documentary for the one-man show, Derek DelGaudio's one-man show, in and of itself is now not on Hulu yet. Hulu did buy the rights. It'll be streaming next year if you have a Hulu subscription, but it's part of a film festival, and we'll include a link in the show notes if you want to pay $12 to rent it to watch. It'll be available between now and November 19th, a week from now, to watch at home, buying a virtual film festival ticket. I'll be doing that this weekend.
Did you see it in person when you were in New York, Norm?
I did.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yes.
You saw it too?
No. I'm so sad I didn't get to see it. Everybody says it's incredible.
That I got to see it.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, Derek DelGaudio, and the show was directed by Frank Oz, and he directed the film as well. They are more proud of this film version than they are of the show. Ooh. So the show was pretty amazing. I don't know if there's hyping up this documentary, but a recommendation. I'm very looking forward to seeing it. Mando is what I want to talk about. Mando episode 2 last week. First of all, Jeremy, you are vindicated. Your keenly attuned ears to the sound of a crate dragon being what Obi-Wan had called out in episode 4. That you are absolutely right.
Oh, wow.
That was what they had sampled or at least emulated for the sound of the crate dragon.
How did you find out?
Commenters on the podcast.
Oh,
also,
wow. Thank you.
Also, the child does the crate dragon sound at some point too to scare off the Tusken Raiders, or in the end of season 1, maybe when he's tromping down someplace.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Episode 2 is out. I think all three of us have watched it. We're not going to go into. We can do like 5 minutes of spoilers, right? What do you think?
You gonna set a timer?
5 minutes of spoilers. Here we go.
All right.
Boom.
The spoiler light's on. It's fucked up. This was a weird episode, man.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Well, it's not okay. It's not okay to eat babies, right?
No. They're unfertilized. They're not babies yet. But,
all right.
But you're eating something. You don't eat sentient stuff, man. That's a simple rule. We don't eat people.
I don't have to look a chicken in the eye as I'm eating its eggs, as it's carrying the last of its eggs.
Right.
Look, chickens are dumb. It's okay to eat chickens because they're really stupid. That's what they're for. We don't eat
Lady
people.
Was smart. Frog Lady hacked the
she hacked the robot.
She's an engineer. Yep.
Yeah.
Frog Lady.
And then the spiders. This is like a J.J. Abrams episode. I didn't like it.
I didn't
like it at all.
First of all, Frog Lady was the name of the character in the credits and the subtitles.
Stop eating my microphone. Get
Really?
So that was how the character was built, Frog Lady. A couple anecdotes. The spider design was actually a callback to a Ralph McQuarrie painting of a cave painting with the giant spider. So they brought that back. It wasn't just a J.J. Abrams, Neville, what's the creature designer design. But yeah, it did kind of look like the big spider monster.
Okay.
Star Trek
X-Wings,
2009.
people. X-Wings.
Well, hold on. Also, directed by Peyton Reed, the episode, who directed Ant-Man 1 and 2. And so that's why there was your Mandible.
Look, Mandible
character.
Guy was a fabulous puppet. Love Mandible Guy. I want to see more of him. Norm, you have a 2-year-old now. Congratulations, by the way. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Did you feel any kind of connection to Mando? Because my question is, do you think Baby Yoda is malicious or just a 2-year-old is jamming everything he can in his face? Just like,
it felt very much like the rapscallion, the tenaciousness of a young child that wants to just do whatever it wants. And there was a look specifically when Mando says, "Don't eat it," and Baby Yoda gave this defiant look and then ate it. I'm like, oh, I know that look. I 100% know that look.
Yeah. But doesn't a part of you think that Baby Yoda isn't 2, that he might be 50? And because, the race lives to be 900 years old, right? So just wondering. And then if that's possible, then maybe Baby Yoda was doing that on purpose in order to preserve them.
Nope.
No.
Or
there was 100%.
Gobble.
Baby needs food.
They were
being
hungry. Turned into the Force. Maybe they were Force pellets.
What's the want sign, Norm? Is it this one? I can't remember. But yeah.
Baby
was-
Yoda
that
want
was
to eat some
want.
eggs.
Yeah.
I
Yum.
thought
Nom,
the production value of this episode addressed all of my concerns from the first episode. The spiders looked so good. The CG of the spiders, the Razor Crest, when the spider landed on the Razor Crest, I was taken aback. It felt cinematic. The blaster firing, the X-Wing chase was gorgeous.
We can talk about this now?
Let's talk about that.
All right, because this is the first time X-Wings have been in Mandalorian, right?
No. You had X-Wings when they
on the
heist
prison
episode.
break.
Yeah, the prison break episode. They came at the end and blasted the
that was a good one.
They blew up the space station.
And they called back to that. They literally called back to the episode.
Yeah.
Loved it. I loved it that you have rebel pilots who are now traffic cops. That was great. That was right up there with the stormtroopers being cops at the end of the last series or season.
I also loved that when they came in and saved Mando at the end, they pulled out the rifles. They pulled out they pulled out the classic rifles. I think that's a rifle I only ever saw in action figures when I was a kid, like the X-Wing pilot rifle. It's maybe the one that the Hoth troopers had, but it's like a framey, wiry, like it looks like a Sten or something with a wire stock, and it's a real cool gun.
Yeah,
they did a good job with that.
The 2 X-Wing pilots, one was Dave Filoni.
Oh, really?
Of Clone Wars.
I did not recognize him.
He also played an X-Wing pilot in that in season 1. He had the cameo, and so he was the same character. He's coming back. He was there for the prison heist, and he's back patrolling, and that's why he recognized the Razor Crest. And the other pilot was the actor Paul Sun-Hung Lee from Kim's Convenience. If you've seen that show, big Star Wars fan. That's a wonderful sitcom. It's on Netflix, and he got to have his cameo in Mandalorian. So
it was great.
I love how busted the Razor Crest is at the end of this episode. I looked at that crash and I was like, man, this is the end of this is it. This is where rest of the season's here.
It felt kind of like Firefly to me for a minute there, where it's just really busted and just limping through the galaxy.
Yeah. It was
I also
really
like the kind of smuggler life, right? Like not going to light speed, like the sleeping inside this cramped quarters, just like that whole kind of it's not glamorous. They're kind of just making their way through the galaxy, and then trying to evade. They don't care about the Empire or the New Republic. They're just doing their thing.
It was a neat conceit.
Space trucking, man.
It was a neat plot, device to keep them from going to light speed. I thought, who would have that's kind of a new development, that going to light speed can be life threatening to fetuses. Who knew? Or eggs,
unfertilized eggs.
Unfertilized eggs.
This is the first, like I rewatched the whole first season before the second season started again, just to kind of like refresh. And I love that first season. If you remember, if you watch Still Entitled, then I was kind of up and down on it at the beginning, especially, and came in at the end. But this is the first time that I was like, man, this might be my favorite Star Wars. I might like this better than any other Star Wars, because this is some good business here.
Yeah.
And it's so tight. It's like, it was like 40 minutes or something. It's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. They're doing good work there.
And there's shows like they're complete nuggets. They don't leave you with a cliffhanger of like, oh my God, how do I wait till next week? It's just, it wraps it up like the 80s. I love it.
Right.
Well, do you think we're going to see the frog lady more? Or do you think her story closes off camera and I think we move on?
We're done with Frog Lady. I think I'm glad it wasn't a Baby Yoda centric episode. It was adorable, and had plenty of moments, but it wasn't
not
like
adorable.
Baby Yoda
Norm.
using force powers to get out of every situation.
The one thing I will say is I was a little disappointed they used the stubby Star X-wing models instead of the slender long ones. They looked stumpy.
Someone told me there is a Baby Yoda unfertilized egg Funko Pop on Amazon. Like already
Like eating.
No, that comes with a model of the egg canister and a Baby Yoda.
I'm not surprised.
Gross.
They're smarter this season about the merchandising, because there's no big spoiler, right? Like
there's
last
a big spoiler.
Season 1, it was
right.
They had no Baby Yoda toys, no child toys. Now they're all coming out just in time for season 2.
The puppetry on Baby Yoda in this episode, mwah. Like walking across the snow, just kind of walking. When he walks over into the spider eggs, it's all very good.
Oh yeah, adorable. Well done. Thumbs up for this episode. Turning off the spoiler light, and now we're going to move on to our next segment. We got 2 console launches this week. As we're recording this, the Xbox Series X and S have been launched. And as you may be listening to this, the PS5 have also been launched. I confess, I am not that into it. I'm not that hyped.
Well, you're a VR guy
who are
like me. Like you were just as excited about the VR developments this year, which have been huge as well. And I can relate to that. The thing that interests me most about the PS5 is the controller, not the games, not the console. Like they have innovated with the analog triggers in a way I can't wait to test out myself.
I'm so with you, Jeremy. So with you.
Do you have an Xbox? The new one?
No, I'm not. I have a really nice gaming PC. Everything that's going to be on the Xbox is coming to the PC. The only thing I'm not able to play on the PS5 is, like, at some point I'll revisit Demon's Souls. It's been 10 years since I played that, but really Miles Morales, and I got so much other stuff to play. I can wait until I get a PS5 next year sometime.
Yeah. The exclusive games, I mean, it's really, like, I think Dan Stapleton said in his testing, it was like the PC upgrade. You're getting you're getting SSDs that allow for instant loading. You're going to play it on better frame rates, high resolution. But in terms of the content, they're still fully supporting, so at launch, so much of the existing console generation. But it's not stopping people from being hyped up about it. Like, people still want to spend $500 for a new console, even though we're moving more toward cloud services. There's GeForce Now, there's Stadia, but people aren't excited about those in the same way as they are getting a new shiny device to put under their TV and to run their games locally.
Well, I mean, if it fits under your TV, the thing that's interesting about watching the video coverage of these new consoles, really more than anything, is the load times are just bananas. Even compared to like an SSD on a PC, like when people are playing Miles Morales, you're seeing those stealth sequences where you fail out of, and on the PS4 it would have been a 20 or 30 second load screen while it reset the scene. And on this, it's like Super Meat Boy. It's just instant. You just boom, 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 boom. You can fail over and over and over again as fast as you want.
That's good.
Which is, it's really nice.
As I've grown older, my patience has grown shorter.
I mean, look, you are very old, Jeremy. It's true.
I am.
We're also in the kind of like the era of remasters. There's just the Mass Effect trilogy remaster announced. Developers and publishers are finding extra value in taking games that people have a lot of great fondness for and re-upping them for the current generation consoles and even more platforms like PC. And like, it's there are very few companies. I know Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out and it's a big budget game, but there are very few rock stars out in the world that can make that kind of investment in a GTA and a Red Dead, or those are the games that really like once in a generation games that excite me. And obviously at the very beginning of this new generation, while there might be some nice bells and whistles like controllers and stuff on HDR and high frame rate, it's not going to compel me to buy a new console, I think, this season. But crossing fingers for VR support.
It's a good thing you don't want it this season, because if you did, you'd be pretty hosed at this point, Norm.
That's the other thing. Yeah.
He has a pre-order in for the PS5.
Yeah, I do. Not shipping tomorrow, though. No
by
shipping
December 31st. Yeah.
By Christmas, maybe. By the end of this year. Thanks a lot.
By the Christmas window.
Yeah. Oh, my God. And extra sadness for people who pre-ordered on Target, who may get their packages shipped in the actual box, which not double box, so may make their consoles vulnerable to theft.
Oh gosh,
yeah.
Boy,
yeah, not
that's
that great.
fun.
The new iPhones, the new iPhones are coming out in a week's time. So this is the iPhone 12 mini and Pro Max, and reviews of those are out. While not for me, and the mini seems to be the most interesting one. They both have interesting things about them. The mini is the small form factor, and then the Max has the better camera for the 2x camera. Looking at some of the photo comparisons, I'm uncompelled. I think the biggest appeal for the Max seems to be the battery life, since the battery life does seem to be a little bit decreased with the 12 and the 12 Pro versus the previous generations.
It will kick into night mode later than the 12 Pro. In terms of how much light you need. So the wider aperture or whatever it is, whatever magic they have, it does allow it to take lower light photos without switching into night mode better. So there's that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just ordered a 12 Pro.
Great.
I looked at it, I was like, this isn't good enough to be worth not fitting in my pockets comfortably. I'm going to get instead of getting the small iPad, I'm going to get the giant phone instead. Honestly, I wish they just put the good camera in the iPhone 12 mini, and I would have happily bought that. I would have been thrilled.
If they put 3 cameras in the mini and charge the same price as the Pro, I feel like that would have been the one to get. Now, there are interesting things if we wanted to go and dive into like the panel technologies and the pixel resolutions. I'm not going to start reciting resolutions. I have a child now, so that's the part of my memory that's been long gone. But the 12 mini does have the highest pixel density of any of the phones now. And interestingly, so the 12 Pro, right, and the 12, because they have the same screen, the OLED screen, are slightly bigger screens than the previous generation. They actually, from a developer side, they render at a different resolution. So the app scales slightly differently than if you're developing for the 10S, the 10, or the 11. The 12 has a slightly bigger. The 12 mini...
Is the aspect ratio the same, though?
Aspect ratio is the same.
Okay.
12 mini actually renders at the same resolution as the last gen, but with a higher pixel density and at a different pixel scaling. There's actually downsampling on the 12 mini. And so even though it's Retina, you're giving extra sharp Retina because points per pixels ratio is such that you're actually getting the text looks smaller, looks more like the iPhone 5 text, but and it's not 1-to-1 pixels. It's like 1 point something to 1 pixel.
The only reason you care about this, the only reason you're talking about this right now is because you remember 320 by 200. You remember like 640 by 480. You remember when resolution differences meant something.
I remember when they were able to, Apple blew people's mind when they went with unconventional, non-standard pixel dimensions. We all were phones had to be 320 by 240. They had to be this aspect ratio. 1080p phones on Android phones made sense. They had to make a 1920 by 1080, cut the LCDs that way. And then when Apple said, hey, we can have some weird number pixel height on an iPhone 5 by just stretching the display, something
We're just going to cut the panels in different shapes.
They control the supply chain.
On Daring Fireball.
Why not just cut them in different shapes, right? They don't have to go to a third-party supplier and find what they had in the supply chain. They dictate that. Mm-hmm. And we're just seeing the fruits of that now. And the long story short is, if you were an iPhone 4 and an iPhone 5 user and you like the size of the PPI, the size of the text of the icon text and icon size of that phone, the Mini is very close to that. Versus when everyone got, when we got the iPhone 10s and the 11s, everything was a little bit bigger. Yeah, things were more clear, but the icons were bigger and the text was bigger as well. Battery life is shorter on the Minis, so that's the trade-off. It's $100 cheaper. $100 cheaper. Will, you want to talk about Fuser? What's Fuser?
I want to talk about Fuser.
Man,
All right,
Fuser
Jeremy,
is amazing.
Fuser is $100 if you
Fuser
want.
is
If
it's
you
magic. It's expensive.
Yeah.
What is Fuser?
Fuser is a new game from Harmonix. If you were, it's like a DJing game, which sounds not like DJ Hero in that you have like a turntable you have to spin, you're scratching and stuff like that, but like in that you can mix and make mashups on your own live with three of your friends on a stage. So I was watching Gary and our mutual friend Jerry playing this the other day, and like and ended up playing last night with them. Basically, you're sitting there, you have a box, you have a crate of albums that you bring in with you, and then each album has 4 stems in it. Each song has 4 stems. So like one will be like a drum line, one will be a bass line, one might be like a sampler or a keyboard or violin or horns, and then one will be vocals. And you can kind of pick them up and drop them in on the beat. So when you're playing in a cooperative game, you each get 32 bars. And you can drop the samples in when you want, and you can pull them out. You can mute them. We can switch them. You can flip them. You can slow and shift the tempo. You can kind of manipulate the key by pushing new stuff in. So you end up with these. You can make some real auditory nightmares, but you can also, even without really understanding music theory at all, because I don't understand music theory at all, you can make some really, really cool music in like the girl talk. I don't want to say Neil Ciceraga because there's a connotation there, but like in kind of the mashup context that is just rad. Where like last night I was playing with Gary and he was playing like the bass line from Push It, right, and the vocals from X Gonna Give It to You, and then laid on some Shania Twain vocals on top of that, and then pulled in something else from like Bananarama, and you end up with like this real like amazing music thing. And it's interesting it's interesting on 2 fronts. One is that you have this performative music thing that's shared in a place that we can't go to clubs and listen to music right now. So like you can load up the game, you can watch on Twitch, whatever, and see these performances because of the DMCA stuff that's happening on Twitch. It all has to happen live. Like as soon as you finish the stream, the first thing you do is kill all the VODs, kill all the clips, so you don't get the copyright nasty grams. So it's a very ephemeral kind of, you have to be there to enjoy this thing. Kind of like, do you remember Turntable FM, Norm?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of that, but with way more control over the music and like the ability to fade between songs and stuff like that. And it's just, but the technology is amazing because like no matter what musical horrors you try to create, like at one point last night I was dropping 4 vocals in, and I had like some Latin vocals and some hip hop vocals and some R&B vocals, and then I put Never Gonna Give You Up on top of that, and it kind of all came together. Like the software figured it out, and it made it work, and like it was cursed, but it sounded okay.
It does all the beat mapping and pitch mapping for you, and it like that's where all of the grunt work is involved in that kind of DJ mixing. So like, it's odd. They take all the hard work out of it and just let you have fun. It's a lot like their board game that they released a couple of years ago called Drop Mix, which I don't know if you guys ever played that?
Yeah, I played the heck out. I never played the game part of Drop Mix, but I just would load it up and put the cards down and be like, what happens if I do this?
Exactly.
Right? And yeah.
So this is basically that provided on Steam for anybody to download without the need to have the hardware and the cards themselves, which is it's a great idea. I don't understand, having not played it yet. I look forward to it. How do you earn points? Like where is the skill game here?
How's it scored?
So the scoring is based on doing things on the main beat or on the drop beats, depending on like so for example, if you want to drop an audio track in, you want to drop it in on the start of the hook or on a specific phrase or something like that, and it indicates that. So you like you go up and move your mouse up or gamepad, whatever, up onto the song you want, and then you hit ASD or F for drum, bass, rhythm, vocal. Mm-hmm. And like each one will have different cues. So like the rhythm vocal may be on the second beat, and the bass drop may be on the third beat, and the vocal may be on the fourth beat. So like you don't want to, like, if you're gonna, I hate to keep bringing up the Rick roll, but if you want to drop Rick Astley and you want to get Never Gonna Give You Up, you don't want to drop that in on, give you up. You don't want to drop in midway through the phrase. You want to get in right at the right spot, and it scores based on that. It scores based on there are requests. So if people are watching in game, like, people can watch on Twitch if you're streaming, but people can also like just jump into your stream in the game as a spectator without having any ability to control the music, just to like have some chill lo-fi beats to like jam out to. And they can make requests for like specific genres, specific instruments, specific songs, specific decades. So you get points for fulfilling requests. You get points for landing stuff on the beat. You get points for making something that isn't a cacophony. And then there's also like game challenges that are like, do 3 drum tracks, or do only 1 stem here, and or mute and unmute specific colors and stuff like that. It's the game part is the least interesting part of it. The most interesting part is that, like, when I sit down, when Gary and Jerry and our friend Steve Spawn and I were playing last night, like, one person would start, and at the end of at the end of their 32 bars, the next person picks up what was on the table at the end of their 32 bars, and then has to kind of pick it up and carry it on. So it's a little bit like, it's a little like you're taking the vibe and you're adding your vibe on top of their vibe, and then the next person takes your vibe, and at the end of that round, the one that scores best is the base for the next round.
Can I ask a question? Do you think it's possible, and I know this is exactly what Harmonix wants me to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do you think it's possible that this game will be used to actually DJ parties at college campuses?
100. I spent the day that I was listening to Gary and Jerry play this before it was out. I literally sat there all afternoon working, and this was just the soundtrack for me working, was them goofing around with this music making thing. Wow. It's like, imagine you had like Tractor or whatever your sequencing app is, but it didn't require understanding of musical theory to make something that sounds good, right? Like,
it makes me think of, especially the scoring stuff with like a game like Pistol Whip, where music and the feel of the beat and where the parts of the song resonate with you and an audience are so subjective that it's tough for an algorithm or a programmer to kind of rank these things. I mean, you can do things like beats, like on the beat. Absolutely. They have so much experience with the rhythm games for making that work. But that's why, like, I never play a game like Pistol Whip for score, because where I feel like I get most satisfaction out of engaging with the music physically is not where they've specifically kind of tune the point system. And here it's more like, it sounds like, as long as people are having fun listening to it and there's a good kind of multiplayer aspect to it, it's the scoring isn't important.
The scoring is the least important. Like, so the single player campaign, the thing about Dropix was there wasn't a ton of single player campaign, which meant they kind of just chucked you in the deep end of that game. You had to kind of figure it out. And the people who took that time really engaged with it and enjoyed it. And the people who didn't kind of got lost in it's in the back of a closet someplace. With this, the single player campaign guides you through that whole process. And the neat thing about it is, remember when we used to play Rock Band, and like, you spend some time playing Rock Band, you're like, oh man, I never appreciated how hard drumming is, and like how important. I never really paid attention to what the rhythm line, the bass line is for maps or whatever. And then you start hearing those things in music when you're listening to music outside of the game. You pick up the bass lines and you pick up the keyboards, and you start separating out the components in a way that I at least had never done before, engaging with those kinds of rhythm games. And this is like one step further down that path. It feels like this is much more of a music, even though it does take, like, admittedly, the technical and hard part of the remix DJ business out of the remix DJ business. Like, I understand what's going on with that stuff infinitely better today than I did 2 days ago before I played this game for the first time.
That's cool.
It's a neat thing. It is expensive. You get like 100 songs with the $100 edition. Oh. And I think if you don't get the $100 edition, you can pick and choose the songs you want out of the upgrade pack. So, if you don't want to push it, you can pay less and not get push it.
I agree, Norm. That'd be great to do in VR. I remember having a blast with Guitar Hero VR. Like, honestly, like, just letting my brain take me to the fantasy of performing on stage. I went there and had a blast.
The Rock Band VR game was dope too.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. All right. I don't think we're going to have a VR minute. There's not a lot to talk about in terms of news, but let's bring back, because Will, you're here. Let's bring back a vintage segment. Here we go.
Testing this week.
Hey, what have you guys been testing? Jeremy, I'm going to start with you since I know you got some new networking gear.
Yeah, well,
How are your Eros working?
I got the Eero 6 Pro. That's the big boy. It's a $600 router, flagship Eero setup with 3 units that you place around your house, and they create a mesh network. And
Are you wiring them in?
yeah, all 3 of them are wired over Ethernet, except if currently one, because I'm trying to diagnose an issue with I wasn't getting my full gigabit performance, but it's not having to do with the Eero. I think I have a bad cable in the mix. It's so far so good. The penetration, the whatever you want to call the Wi-Fi coverage is better than with my old ones, which was the first generation Pro, and so that's good. I have now full bars throughout the house, and I guess more importantly, the Wi-Fi speeds are better. I'm not getting that gigabit theoretical that this is supposed to deliver, though. That was the big difference between the Pro and the standard Eero 6. It was a full gigabit over Wi-Fi 6, and on my new iPhone 12 Pro, I'm getting maybe 300 megabits, and I'm not that far away from the router, so it's still fine. I'm not complaining, but it's not as fast as I expected.
And if you're on a laptop, that's where you would actually want the speeds.
Sure.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think that's a problem with this like processor and or the Wi-Fi in the phone? Or
entirely possible. But that I don't think I have any other Wi-Fi 6 enabled devices. I mean, the new phone is the only one that would do it. So maybe you're right. I'm curious. Maybe somebody in the comments can let me know if the new iPhones aren't capable of gigabit Wi-Fi 6 or what the deal is. But I mean, I'm not complaining. I was just excited to see how fast it could go. But the coverage is great. So far, so good. I just the one thing about the Eeros is they still haven't incorporated a backend to like a web-based backend. You still have to use the app for everything, and I'm just not down with setting up all my port forwarding with my phone. That just feels way too, Gen Y.
That's why I do 2 networks, right? I have a D-Link or my standard router. That's my main one connected to modem, and then from that goes to the mesh network just for Wi-Fi. But everything primarily wired wise goes in to the standard traditional router. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go Ubiquiti when it's time to upgrade my router next time and go to Wi-Fi 6, because it seems like those edge routers are really good for gigabit users, and also you can separate out the Wi-Fi and the router so that your router, which should last for 10 years probably until the hardware fails, is a separate piece of equipment from the thing that does the radio.
That's how I was doing it. I had an Asus router that I would I turned off Wi-Fi, just used it as a router, and I was just using the Eeros as in bridge mode. So they're that they handle the Wi-Fi. And I had this weird issue with my not getting full gigabit, so I cut the router out of the equation. I might try to put it back in. Okay. I'm just saying, I've done that, and it works great.
I got the standard 6s, and so every time I get new Eero devices, they get put to the front of my Eero stack, like the thing that's closest to the router. And then all the other Eero subsequently get pushed out physically further out into the places where, the garage or the places where I just, would be nice to have another hotspot. And they all seamlessly work, like all generations within that one app. And it's impressive how quickly they switch between the spots. Like you can tell which Eero device is your laptop, your phone is connected to, and it refreshes pretty quickly. So walking from room to room, the seamless switch, like a video stream, an upload doesn't get interrupted, but you are jumping from device to device, and you can tell on someone monitoring the app. I wish there's a little bit more granular control in terms of saying, I want this device to prioritize that spot because I'm going to be in this room most of the time, and that's the best one. And they don't have that yet. Something I've been testing is something called an ATEM. It's from Blackmagic. We actually use it in our live stream. It's the ATEM Mini Pro, and basically it's a hardware video switcher. We used it for a live stream we did yesterday, but it basically does what OBS does. You can take 4 HDMI inputs, gives you a USB out or an HDMI out, and big physical buttons to say switch between these cameras and do transition cuts, do picture-in-picture, do chroma keying for green screen. And what's cool about this one, there are a couple different tier prices. The most expensive one is $900, is that you can record, if you plug in a USB hard drive, record all the video signals plus your mix down as 1080p H.264s on a hard drive that you have plugged into it. So you can edit it later with their Blackmagic, their version of a Premiere Profile, or just have those raw files. So we did it with an iPhone and my DSLR, but you can do it with whatever HDMI device that you have.
It's amazing how much cheaper those are and more capable they are, because we used them for some productions last year, and like it's stuff that we would have spent $20,000 on a TriCaster for like 10 years ago. And now they're what, like $1,500 or something?
No,
for
$300.
Most expensive, $300
the mini
if
is
you don't want the
$300
recording.
now?
If you don't want record, you just want basically hardware OBS, so video
Good
in
God.
and HDMI out or USB out to use as a webcam for streaming, $300.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
You get switches. Like OBS works, and it's the argument is that it's free, and if you have enough, you can buy really cheap. You don't have to buy the Elgato 4K cam links. You can buy they're like commodity items in China now. HDMI to USB,
Maxell, whatever. Yeah,
exactly. $20
There's a whole
you can get like $20-$30. You can get a HDMI to USB, and if you have a good USB hub on your desktop, right, you can get tons of HDMI inputs. OBS can handle them. They have scene transitions. That's great. It's free, but you're also running on the risk of that compounding with whatever game you're streaming, Twitch streaming software. I always am wary of stacking and relying too much on what's happening in Windows. So having a hardware switcher where the input it just reads as a webcam or an HDMI out, and the HDMI out, you get a monitor, you get like a full TriCaster view of all your views. The hardware switching is just, it feels like magic. And like you said, like when we were doing this back in the WYSI days with a $10,000 TriCaster, you have most of that functionality minus some effect stuff. For $300.
No flames, probably.
You could, if you download the software, you could absolutely incorporate your own graphics.
There you go. I just spent a couple of months switching all of my home automation stuff from SmartThings, which they changed the APIs and it switched from a V1 to a V2, which required Samsung logins and stuff like that. We talked about it on the Tech Pod 2 weeks ago. But I did that process and I'm running now all of my home automation hub stuff, including Z-Wave and Zigbee and all of like the API based stuff like Lutron and Google Home and Chromecast and all that is all running off of a Raspberry Pi 3 that's sitting right over there. That is running open source software, and I can, like, if I want to change something, I can open up some Python scripts and write some Python scripts and do basically whatever. Like, I can write really complicated scripts for automation stuff, so that, for example, when I start streaming, it hits the Twitch API and it says, "Oh, he's streaming. I should set the lights in the studio to streaming mode." And I never have to, or when I have a meeting like a podcast today, it turns them off, and when we finish, it'll turn them back down again. It's pretty cool, and you can find out about that it's just Home Assistant. It's an open source thing that you can run on a Raspberry Pi, but we talked about it at length in the Tech Pod a couple weeks ago at techpod.content.town.
Perfect.
I know we're short on time, but I've also been testing Pi-hole. Have you guys tried that? Seems like
I love Pi-hole. I've been running for months. We did an episode.
A Tech Pod episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it seemed right up your alley. So it's a great use for an old Raspberry Pi that maybe is a Series 2, or I know people even run it on like the W, like the $5 Raspberry Pi.
I started it on a 1 and it did not run well on a 1, but a 2 or 3 is fine.
Yeah. It is basically, it serves as a DNS for your entire network. So you point your router to it as the DNS source. It then filters out by default 50,000 websites that are all serving websites or just bad websites that you don't ever want to go to, and keeps everybody on your home network away from those. It speeds up your network performance because it blocks ads across the board, across apps on your phone, games that you have on your phone, any obviously websites that you go to from any device. And it's just a great use for an old Raspberry Pi. Super easy to set up. And the only downside is when it goes down, you can't go anywhere. You have to know how to go into your router and revert to your old setting. But besides really, really cool thing.
Awesome. Speaking of Tech Pod, that's where we're going to record now, Will.
I gotta go.
So any preview to what you're covering this week?
I can't talk about it yet.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We have 2 potential topics, and I'm not sure which one we're going to do. So I'm ready to do one or the other. But last week we talked with Gordon Ma Ung, about our former coworker from Future from Maximum PC, who's now on at PC World, about AMD's Zen 3 processors, which he'd been benchmarking. We had kind of first performance numbers about that there to find out. And also talking about the general state of Intel versus AMD in the CPU world. The TLDR, if you don't want to listen to the episode, is that probably you should be buying AMD right now, regardless of your workload, just because they're absolutely kicking ass. And then we touched a little bit on the Radeon cards that AMD announced 2 weeks ago now.
Yep. Awesome. Again, techpod.content.town. Thank you so much, Will, for joining us, guesting this week. We'll be back next week in another episode of This Is Only a Test, and maybe some more VR talk then. Getting closer to Medal of Honor. I can't wait. I'm very excited
about that.
For that game. All right. We do have an outro this week. This one's from Richard. Great job taking a break from me playing his outros. And so we do have a new one. I haven't listened to it at all, but here we go. This one's called Yes, Sir.
Hi there, I didn't see you. Test it.
Google this right now.
Yes, sir.
This is your homework, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Watch the YouTube explainer.
Yes, sir.
Wait for the movie to come out.
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Yes, sir.
That's funny. That's good. Yeah.
I disagree completely.
All right. Thanks, Richard, for making that outro. You can always submit outros. Submit them over Twitter or Discord, and we'll see you next time.
Yes, sir.